Dubai, a vast land on the desert coastline, once a vibrant city full of life, now faces deep trouble.
His voice commanded attention as everyone in the room, both physically present and attending via the internet, listened intently. Among them were Velvet, Chris, Randy, and other experts, gathered for what felt like a critical moment. He paused, scanning the room.
There is still hope in terms of firepower. We've seen people begin to adapt, using magic in its elemental forms. But there's a huge problem. Does anyone know what it is?
He waited for a response. From within Velvet's clothes, Gloomy's voice whispered.
Velvet, why are we even here? I don't know why we're part of this.
Velvet stifled a yawn, struggling to stay awake. Her eyes blinked open, realizing she had dozed off.
Wake up, Velvet. You'll get us in trouble.
As Velvet refocused, Colonel Bridges' tone grew more serious.
That's right, our main problem is food. We're in a desert country, and the sea isn't safe either. Supplies are limited, and we can't grow crops without safety and proper conditions. We need a solution before we run out.
Randy raised his hand.
Sir, what about the president? He's got talented individuals with him, right?
The president is occupied with his own region. We can't rely on him to solve our problems. Right now, our most immediate concern is finding a safe way to cultivate food.
On the internet screen, the vice president appeared, nodding.
We need to establish secure areas for vertical farming inside controlled environments. Aquaculture alone won't sustain us. We must expand our safe zones and prepare for long-term solutions.
Chris raised his hand.
What if we take down the red dragon? Would that help?
Gloomy groaned softly.
Velvet, if you fall asleep again, I'll touch your most sensitive place. I'm not kidding.
Velvet's cheeks flushed with embarrassment as she whispered back.
I'm awake.
Colonel Bridge nodded at Chris.
Yes, defeating the red dragon would give us a fighting chance. It's a disaster-class monster. Its intelligence makes it even more dangerous.
Chris leaned forward.
So, we've got the red dragon, food shortages, and water issues. We can't solve the first two unless we take down the dragon, right?
That's correct. The dragon has made Dubai Airport its lair.
Chris raised his hand again.
I'll volunteer to neutralize it, for everyone's sake.
Gloomy sighed.
This guy really loves raising his hand, doesn't he?
Velvet nudged Gloomy.
Shut up.
Randy chimed in.
It's not just about volunteers. We need to use our full force to take it down.
Colonel Bridge nodded.
But first, we need to accomplish smaller tasks. We have to wait for some of the president's aces, the ones who've adapted to this new world. Then we secure Al Maktoum Airport for more weapons. And finally, we'll plant explosives around Dubai Airport without alerting the dragon.
Chris frowned.
How do we pull that off? You said the dragon is smart.
Randy responded.
That's also its weakness. The dragon sees us as food. It's careless when it's not hungry, and right now, it's sleeping.
Velvet's expression darkened at Randy's words. Sleeping? Like the day it attacked Angelo. Her fists clenched, thoughts of revenge flashing through her mind. Sensing her shift, Gloomy whispered again.
Don't do anything drastic, Velvet.
Velvet took a deep breath, calming herself. Chris noticed her mood and spoke softly.
Velvet, I won't force you to join, but do you want to assist me?
After a pause, Velvet met his gaze.
I don't mind. I'll do what I can.
Chris smiled.
Great! You'll be on my team. I'll explain our part of the mission later.
Colonel Bridge dismissed the group.
Stay safe, everyone. We have a lot of work ahead of us.
Velvet walked through the mall's dimly lit hallways toward the location Chris had mentioned. Her boots echoed softly off the tiled floor.
So this used to be an old restaurant, huh?
She glanced around at the remnants of a once busy eatery. From inside her clothes, Gloomy's voice chimed in.
Restaurant? Food? Chicken adobo?
Velvet chuckled.
You really love that stuff, huh? Don't worry, I'll cook something special tonight when we're back.
Gloomy wiggled excitedly.
I can't wait.
A few moments later, Chris arrived with 3 others. The group now totaled 5, including Velvet.
Velvet, meet the others. That's Jonah, Spencer, and Delta. They're strong, silent but deadly, as they say.
Delta stepped forward, her voice smooth.
Hello, Velvet. Pleasure to meet you.
Her gaze was intense, and Velvet blinked, slightly taken aback. Before she could react, Chris quickly stepped in.
Don't mind her. She's got that attitude, but trust me, she's good at what she does.
Velvet nodded.
And the other 2?
She glanced at Jonah and Spencer, who stood silently.
Yeah, they don't talk much, but they speak when it matters.
From inside her clothes, Gloomy snickered.
Velvet, this is such a ragtag team.
Velvet suppressed a smile, thinking, you might be right. Chris's tone shifted, becoming more serious.
Now that you've met everyone, tomorrow we'll scout Al Maktoum Airport. We need to plan carefully before we make any moves to reclaim it.
The group nodded and began to disperse, leaving the restaurant. As Velvet started walking away, Chris called out.
Velvet, wait!
He tried to catch up with her but hesitated, muttering under his breath.
This isn't sand. I'll hurt myself for real this time.
Velvet stopped, sensing he wanted her attention. Without turning, she waited for him to catch up.
Hey, thanks for stopping. I was wondering if, maybe, you'd want to have a coffee with me? There's some good coffee in the pantry, and, well, it's Redbox. I thought you might miss the taste.
He scratched the back of his head, looking nervous. Velvet hesitated. She wasn't exactly eager to spend extra time with him, but coffee. It was hard to resist.
Oh, okay. Shall we?
Inside her clothes, Gloomy giggled.
Did Chris just win her heart?
Before Velvet could respond, she swatted herself, startling Chris.
What happened?
Velvet laughed awkwardly.
Oh, I thought there was a bug on me, so I tried to crush it.
Chris tilted his head.
But you hit yourself?
Let's just forget about that.
Meanwhile, back at the new sanctuary, Gloomy suddenly teleported, landing on the floor with a thud.
Ow, that hurts.
She rubbed her head as she stood up. Bagani glanced over, raising an eyebrow.
What are you doing here? Did Master reprimand you again?
Gloomy chuckled.
Something cheesy is happening over there, and I couldn't miss it. Do you have any skills that could let me watch Master like a TV?
Bagani sighed.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm busy with my own project.
Gloomy winked.
Good luck with that. Now, time to sneak back without anyone noticing. Please like and subscribe.
Velvet and Chris walked toward the pantry, the air between them thick with awkwardness. Velvet remained calm, while Chris looked tense, almost like he was on autopilot.
Hey, something wrong?
She noticed his strange behavior. Chris squeaked in response, startling her.
Sorry. It's been a while since I've done something like this. I mean, walking with someone who isn't, a guy. Not that it means anything. Oh man, I don't know what I'm saying.
Velvet smiled but tried to hide it.
Relax. Coffee won't taste good if you're tense. That's what I always told Angelo.
Angelo?
He muttered under his breath.
Oh, so there's already someone in her life.
Velvet sighed, her voice quieter.
Angelo was my childhood friend.
They arrived at the pantry and Chris quickly changed the topic.
Welcome to the good old Redbox.
1 coffee latte, please.
Chris grinned nervously.
You got it. For the most beautiful woman in here, well, literally the only one here.
Velvet burst into laughter, tears forming from the sheer absurdity of it.
Will you cut it out?
She wiped her eyes as Chris handed her the coffee. Just then, he noticed the heart-shaped design in the foam and pulled it back.
Wait, hold on, let me fix that.
Velvet quickly grabbed it back, laughing.
Oh, it's fine. I think it looks good, even if it is one of the worst designs in the coffee world.
Chris winced internally. There goes my heart, he thought. Velvet stirred her coffee, still smiling.
See, this is why.
She pointed at the heart dissolving as she stirred the cup. After taking a quiet sip, Velvet spoke softly.
I think I understand what you're trying to say, Chris. And thank you for being nice to me, but I'm probably the worst person to befriend right now.
She lifted her cup, her words a kind but firm way of letting him down. Chris looked at her, confused.
Why do you say that?
Velvet's grip tightened on her cup as she took a deep breath.
The Red Dragon. I'm only here because I want revenge. There's someone I cared about since we were 5. And in a snap, everything changed. Now I'm just trying to survive in this world.
Chris's expression softened.
That's why you said yes to joining me. It's about Angelo, isn't it?
Velvet nodded.
Yeah. He's always been in my heart. My best friend. I still believe he's alive somewhere out there. I don't have much left, but that's my hope.
Chris let her words sink in.
I believe it too. If you can give me a picture of him or something, I'll try to find any leads. But, could you trust me, even just a little?
He smiled awkwardly, his voice softening.
I'm not asking for much, just a small chance. Even if it's the size of a peanut, or, I don't know, a piece of candy. Just give me a little space to help you. I'll be here for you.
Velvet's gaze grew distant, but she smiled faintly.
After my time here, I'll go back to the Philippines. That's my goal.
She playfully punched him on the chest.
So you better be strong. I'll try to trust you, but you'll have to stay strong and stay alive until we're old.
Chris smiled, nodding.
I'll fight for it. I can't promise anything, but I'll try my best.
Unbeknownst to them, Gloomy had returned, watching from a distance. Tears welled up in her eyes as she listened.
Master, I'll always protect you.
Tears streamed down her face. Velvet and Chris continued their conversation, which had shifted to more light-hearted topics. Velvet's curiosity turned to Chris's life in the USA, particularly their views on relationships.
So, is it true what they say about Americans? You can change relationships in an instant?
Chris scratched his head, looking a bit awkward.
Well, I wouldn't say it's like that for everyone. There's beauty in the way we live, but, yeah, it's a bit different.
Velvet chuckled.
Angelo always warned me about that. We had American neighbors back in the Philippines and he'd joke about it all the time.
Chris laughed.
Seriously? You've already tagged me as a predator, haven't you?
Velvet shook her head, laughing.
No. I'm just asking if it's true, not accusing you.
They shared a laugh as the conversation carried on. Soon, they noticed people entering the room, signaling the end of their private chat.
Well, I guess it's time for me to head out.
Chris looked concerned.
You're going back to that place?
Yeah, I feel more comfortable there. It's my private space.
Chris sighed but nodded.
All right, at least stay for dinner. They're getting things ready now.
Velvet gently shook her head.
I'd love to, but it'll be too dark soon and it's hard to navigate at night.
Chris nodded, understanding.
You're right, okay then. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock, we'll meet here again.
Velvet flashed him a quick smile.
Got it, Captain.
She turned and began to walk away. As she scanned the area and made sure no one was watching, she raised her hand.
Gloomy, let's go. Don't think I didn't notice you sneaking around this whole time.
With a swift motion, Gloomy slipped back into Velvet's clothes. Her voice was soft and trembling.
Master, I love you.
Velvet's steps faltered for a moment.
What happened to you?
Her voice was filled with quiet concern as she continued walking.
You say we're all the same, twisted minds, a crooked game. But I see you pointing fingers,